All right, friends, it is 2 p.m., top of the hour. Hello, welcome. Today, we are going to be diving into something that's near and dear to my heart because it's essentially my own story of the different iterations. And I'm going to tell you what iterations mean of going from. Actually, let me pull this up on screen here. Going from, where are my notes? My notes right here. Hello, Kim. Good to see you. You guys can see in the back end here. Perfect. Here we go. So from beta launch to 100% automated sales process, I am going to give you a breakdown of essentially what I did at every step of the way to get to this point. And the reason that I wanted to touch on this topic today is because I talk to a lot of you guys. I coach in some different groups. I always have a full email inbox. I love chatting in the DMs. Like you guys know, if you've ever talked with me in DMs, it's me directly. And I'm usually grilling you on questions of like, tell me more about this. Tell me more about this. So I hear a lot of insight from the industry. And essentially, my desire to share all of this today is to help people realize that going from not having an online course to creating a 100% automated sales process is a journey, right? Like there's going to be multiple iterations. It's going to look different at each stage. And so today, let's dive into that. Like, let me show you my process from start to finish so that maybe you can identify where you are in this process. And if that gives you permission to feel more confident, to know that it's okay that you're not all the way over here, which your brain is constantly telling us, like, you're not doing enough. I'm not in the place that I need to be. It's like, yes, but I am on the pathway. I'm taking steps forward towards that every single day. I just realized headphones aren't even plugged in, but also, why am I wearing headphones? Because I'm the only person talking here. Let's just plug them in. I just realized that. Okay, guys. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just give us a quick overview of how that's going to break down, and then I'll give you, and then we'll just dive into it. So the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to show you through the iterations of the program from the first one into what it's become today. We're going to take a look at two lenses. The first lens is going to be what is the launch mechanism that I used during that time period. So this is essentially how I sold it. And then the second half is going to be the program structure, which is essentially what was sold, like what the actual product looked like during that time. So super simple. That's the goal today. If you're here, give us a hello in the comments, but also don't hesitate to ask questions because I'm a generator. I love questions. My strategy is to respond. So as you guys are going through this, let's just chat about anything that you want to, because I want to make this training the utmost service and value to you. I'm going to stop my share real quick just to confirm that our screen is showing up. Okay, perfect. I think it is because nobody has said, hey, Bond, I actually don't know what you are looking at on the screen. So I'm going to assume that means that you guys can see my slides. So let's pull those back up on the screen and get right back into it. So to kick it off, before I launched the first iteration of my online course, the place that I was in my life and business was I was delivering the thing that I ultimately ended up training on in a one-to-one capacity. So this picture here on the screen is actually my very first paycheck ever. And my brand name was called Vertigo Social Marketing. You're like, what a name. Because it's like, is it Vertigo? Is it Vertigo? No, Vertigo. See, I don't even remember which one it was. Like, that's how bad of a name it was. The backstory is I was in a group class in university, and that was the random name that we came up for with, excuse me, for our group project. And I was like, that's a great marketing name. Is it though? And so back in the day, I was offering Facebook ads management, so more on the social media side, for $67 a week. $67 a week. And my rates have basically 100 times that to work one-on-one with me since. But that also included, get this, $7 of ad spend a week. So I would go and I would create content for every single day of the week. I would manage it. I would do the images. I would write the copy. I would schedule it out. Excuse me. And then I would spend $1 a day to actually boost it at that day, like at that time. Looking back on it, it's so funny. Like we obviously have to go through the process to get where we are now. But I would boost that post for $1 a day, and that would be included in my retainer. So I started there and then really realized that for me, social media, it was challenging from a client standpoint, like me offering a service, getting paid for it. I obviously wanted to increase my retainers along the way. And it was a harder link on social media to go from, hey, this action over here is producing ROI over there. And so that's what helped me shift and pivot more towards the Facebook ad side of the equation, which took me down the rabbit hole of getting involved in the internet marketing and course creator cinematic universe, I guess we'll call it. And so I went from just being the $67 a week social media manager to literally having people like Amy Porterfield tell me, like text me and tell me that she wishes she could keep me in her pocket all day long. And we coined the term pocket bond. And so I'm just gonna, I joked around. I was like, perfect. I'm just gonna text you back with daily tips and go, hey, Amy, pocket bond here. You know what I mean? So going from $67 a week to really working with people who have become thought leaders and really prevalent in our universe, that was an iterative process that took a few years before the online course even came into question. So before the course was even a thing, the biggest lesson that I have for all of us is really, if you're in a place where you're like in your business, where you're like, hey, it's just me, or I'm trying to leave a job, or, I need to pay the bills, the fastest path to cash in the online space is truly offering a one-to-one service. It is something that you could sell more quickly, right? You don't need to create all of the assets, all of the emails, the webinars, the launch elements, the course. You could literally just find a single human being who is willing to exchange money for the value that you're going to deliver them, fire up a Zoom meeting, and be on your way to putting money into your bank account as fast as possible. So looking back on that phase, actually, I wrote it down over here. Looking back on that phase, like the biggest lesson for me is really leveraging the current topic and expertise that I already have. And you guys are here in my audience, so I know that you already are, like, you already have an expertise. Like, you're already probably further along in the course creator journey. But sometimes I do speak to new people as they're coming in, and that's the biggest thing I want them to realize is, like, creating an automated asset that sells every day requires certain skills. It requires certain abilities. Like, we need to be able to get people to want to transact with us, which requires copywriting skills, and it requires sometimes web design skills and automation skills and the ability to talk to a camera like I am right now, right? Like, this is a learned skill. The very first time that I ever put my camera on, I was shaking in my boots, shaking in my boots. I gotta like dig up that video. You could hear the nerves in my voice during that time period. So, like, developing the asset of a fully automated sales process takes time and it takes skills. And so we need to realize that this is a journey, right? I'm going to keep saying that. Like, this is a journey of going from just starting out to the automated side. But if we skip steps, it might be harder. Now, granted, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. So please don't think like this is Vaughn's proven framework. It's the only way to do anything in business. No, this is not that. This is just my story of how I went from here to there. So if you're one of those people where you're like, Vaughn, I'm going to do this way faster than you, please do that. Like, please get there faster. I want you to get there faster. Like, that would be so much more exciting for me. Because, this is a 7-year journey that I'm detailing right here. So that's my biggest lesson from part 1. And so I developed the expertise in the Facebook ad side of the equation. And then that's when I launched Strategy. So Strategy is the name of my third online course, because at this point I had launched a program called Addicted. And when I did that, I actually partnered with another brand who had an audience. They promoted it, and I was essentially the course content and like course creator, and I ran the ads for it. But I had somebody else on that team handling the tech and automation, and another person on that team handling all the copywriting and emails. So that was my first course. My second course was like a one-off that I ran called Fully Booked Webinars. If anyone here is from the group of Fully Booked Webinars, I think there was like 25 of us. Please raise your hand, because I know that you guys are just originals around here. And so this is my first online course, but this is what I essentially became known for in terms of like my IP. Can you guys just, in the comments, when I go full screen, you can see that, right? Like, it doesn't look like this. It goes full screen when I go full screen. It always worries me that I don't get that part right. So we're on the first version of Strategy. The very first time that I said, hey, I have this service that I'm doing for other people. I was running Facebook ads for clients. I'm now going to teach people what I am doing in that process. So that's where we are in the process today. I'm just going to double check and see if you guys said you can see it. Chris, thank you. Tila, yeah, I forgot about Addicted, right? Like, that was a long time ago. Okay, I can see it. Perfect. So when we go full screen, it is doing what we want it to do. So let's get back to sharing it. Strategy 1.0. Actually, anyone who's here from 1.0, I would love to see your hands up as we go. So what was the launch mechanism for the very first time that I'm like, Bond has something to share and she's gonna share it with some people? My recording just said it stopped, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. I swear, tech. Okay, it looks like you guys can still hear me. We got a Strategy 1.0. No, I actually think you were 2.0. Hold on. So I think, okay, perfect. You guys can still hear it. It just said recording stop. So I just wanted to make sure that somewhere you guys could see me. So let's go back to, if this is not indicative of how messy it can be along the way, and you guys will see that one of my lessons coming up is going to share that that's an okay part of the process. Like, I don't know what it is. All right, slideshow, boom, we're there. Strategy 1.0. Strategy 1.0, the only way that I sold this version was literally in the DMs. There was no emails. There was no launch. There wasn't even a sales page, now that I think of it. Here on the screen, there was 2 people that I was talking to during that first phase. One was an ads manager. So this is essentially how I was positioning it for the ads managers of, hey, I'm getting out of the client side, so I need people to refer things over to, so I need more people to understand the way that I do things, right? So that I can pass along those leads. That was the pitch for that first round for anyone who was offering Facebook ads as a service. So that was the first archetype that I was going after the first time. And the second was anyone who was running Facebook ads, excuse me, for their brand. And so as you read through this, it's horrible. It's horrible copy, friends. I couldn't even, this is such like a long message that I sent to somebody. And I think we had connected in a Facebook group comment first. And this is the follow-up message that I sent. Like, it's so feature heavy, like it's so tactical. It doesn't talk really about outcomes. You're reading it, you're like, what does this even mean? Great question. I actually didn't know at the time. I was like, I just have this method that I've been doing for clients, and I need to go through the process of extracting it out of me. And for me, I couldn't do that alone. I needed feedback. I needed humans to see this so that they could help ask the right questions and point it in the right direction. It's kind of like today, I want to go through and summarize some of this process for my own journey, but I don't know how to do that yet. So what I do is I put together all the pieces and then we're going through it today. So once this training has been done, I can look back on it and be like, ooh, that was too long. That was too short. That wasn't interesting. That wasn't relevant. That's not taking them on the journey that I want to take them to get them to the offer point that it ultimately will have. There's no offer on today's call, people. It's just pure value add. And so when you look at this, you're like, ooh, that's a bad DM. But it was a good enough DM to get 10 people to raise their hand and trust me in the process. And so the lesson for that very first cohort in terms of selling it is like, don't create all the bells and whistles. Just tap into your existing network first, right? Like the automated assets are so sexy, so slick. But I bet you there's humans right now in your world that if you just had a conversation with them, if you just emailed them, if you just jumped on Zoom, if you just sent a DM message, like you have people that know what you do. And if you're starting to put that information into more of a leverageable format, like an online course, and you're already known for that expertise, just go to them and share that you're making that transition. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I literally reached out to my old coach and I was like, hey, I am going to be opening up a live cohort of my program at the end of the month. And in the meantime, I'm going to be doing a bunch of just value add things that share more about that. Do you know anyone who might be interested? Right. So I'm on version 52,000 at this point, but I'm still tapping into that original lesson of going to your existing network first, right? If the fastest path to cash is working with people one-to-one, you likely have built some connections and have some potential referrals over here already. So for the first version of it, let's not complicate things. Like literally, I'm talking friends, sending them a PayPal checkout link, right? You don't have to worry about colors and branding and text and copy and functionality and how to make this thing talk to that thing. What we really just need to know is, are people going to buy it, right? And so we tap into our existing network to do that. So what did this first group buy? This actually was essentially supposed to be, how do I explain version 1.0 from my lens? I sold it obviously as a beta, right? Welcome to the Ad Strategist beta intensive. And it had an interactive component in Slack where we would be focusing on the different topics. But I thought, I think this next screenshot is it. Yep. So I thought I needed to be the polished James Wedmore business by design. You know how like perfect his launches are these days, and like Amy Porterfield Digital Course Academy, like everything is just done so beautifully. I thought in my head that I had to be that for my very first version of the course. So creating what you see on the left-hand side of the screen here, welcome, module 1, 2, 3, and then all of a sudden it changes from numbers to like naming module 1, 2, and 3 were me recording videos ahead of time, trying to predict what people needed help with. And doing that caused me so much anxiety during the process because I had this thought of it has to be perfect. It has to be like theirs. They have a very specific way to get people from A to Z. It has to be like that, right? And so I think it was the second or third week when I was even having trouble shipping things because there was just, I made the cardinal sin or the cardinal mistake of getting two different archetypes of clients into that first one: brands who want to run ads themselves and ads managers who are running ads for the brands, right? Like two completely different topics and how you approach everything. Um, the third way through or the third week through, I was like, okay, I can no longer pretend like I'm going to deliver this content ahead of time. We're just going to jump in one-to-one calls. So, oh shoot, I didn't take a screenshot of that. I spent the rest of our time together in beta 1 literally jumping on the phone with both groups. So we had team brand and team ads manager. So I separated those out to make it clearer for everyone. And then I ended up just tacking on as many one-to-one calls with each group, or sorry, with each like individual person. And at that time they were allowed 2 people from their team. So like each team had 2 members. We would get on calls individually with those people. And so looking back at beta 1.0, it was so nerve-wracking. And that's my biggest lesson. Like, give yourself grace if you are in this part of the process right now, where the IP is not quite clear. You're not too sure exactly what you're even teaching or how it's going to be a crystal clear framework or how it's going to get people from A to Z. Like, it's allowed to be awkward, raw, and nerve-wracking for us as the creator. I would add with the caveat of, as long as people know that, right? Like, as long as we're honest in our marketing and our communication, that's where we are in the process of online course creation, right? Because hands up if you guys have ever bought a course and it's like the marketing is just phenomenally polished, and then you get inside and the course is just like somebody looming for 6 hours and you're like, what? This is not that, right? People focus a lot on the marketing. So as long as you're honest with the people at this stage, give yourself grace. Like, it's allowed to be awkward. It's allowed to be raw. It's allowed to be nerve-wracking. You don't have to be James Wedmore or Amy Porterfield or, back in the day, Todd Herman and all those Marie Forleo, like big style launches. You just need to be honest with your audience about where they are and realize that they get a lot of your time, right? And so if you're the expert delivering this one-to-one, and like they get customized time with you where you can help solve their specific pain points, like, that's freaking cool, right? At least I think that's freaking cool. Let me stop the share here just to jump over into our comments to see if we have it before we get on to 2.0. Oh man, I need this kick in the butt. This is awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, Lori. Tila, I think you were 2.0. You're coming up next. I don't have to be perfect. It's okay to be awkward. Awesome. It's okay that you're late, Eric, but we are glad you are here. Okay, guys. Now we're going to jump into 2.0 and what 2.0 ended up looking like. So for a recap, for those who just got here, 1.0 was simply reaching out to our existing network. I'm a DM person. I love chatting with you guys in the DMs. And that was how I got 10 butts in seats to this first version. And it was delivered in a evolving way. It started like an online course, and then it went to more of group coaching, and then it just ended up being one-on-one coaching by the end of it, with a Slack channel as well. So that's what number 1 looked like. And looking back, it was terrifying for me to deliver, but I'm so glad I did, because that got us to strategy 2.0. So strategy 2.0, in between those two, I actually hired an educational design company, and I handed them over all of our files from Strategy 1.0. I was like, here, what the heck is this thing? Like, how, in my mind, I just taught 10 different people 10 different ways to do things. And I'm like, that is so much stuff. There's so much context. There's so much nuance that goes into Facebook ads. There's so many skills that make up being a really good Facebook ads marketer. How could I teach that in a more succinct way? I actually didn't know. So I called in support from people who were helping me to refine it. So that's what happened in between version 1 and 2. So we ran version 1 in April, and then version 2 opened up at the end of September. And so in between that time, the curriculum designers, an educational consultant that we had, there was a team of them, went through and helped me refine it a little bit more. So for those of you who were in Strategy 2.0, it looked very, very, very different. I actually launched it using what I called an anti-launch. And this is something fun. I actually want to try this again in today's market. It was an event on Facebook. So I went to my Facebook page. This was hosted by my Facebook page, right? Like event by Amanda Bond and Amanda Bond. That's Amanda Bond, the personal page, and Amanda Bond, the Facebook page. And I created this event, and it was going to be a week where as soon as somebody said that they are going, right, at the bottom where it says 243 went, when it was live or beforehand, it was said going. And then the 199 people that said interested, Facebook, and it still does to this day, has the ability to go in and say, hey, put an ad in front of the people who are interested or going. And so this anti-launch, I did not send anything other than one single email at the very end of it when the cart opened. I did not have a sales page in the traditional sense. I literally put this event on the feed. I was like, hey guys, I'm hosting the anti-launch. I'm not even going to ask you for my email or your email address. And then I ran a few low-key ads that got people to respond, like RSVP to the actual event. This was back in 2017 still. So there's actually there's no data that you can see for these specific events, but then the cost to get people to RSVP, I remember it being stupid low, like less than a quarter or something to get people to raise their hand, which put them into my retargeting audience. And then I was testing 3 different checkpoints here as the first thing that they saw. And that was the whole launch. It was putting an ad in front of those people that expressed an interest. I'm telling you, I have to do this. Like, who wants to see me do this again? Or maybe we should like break down the anti-launch in another live stream. It was so fun and so simple, where people actually didn't even realize that they were seeing the ads in the launch. They thought it was just organic content. But in checkpoint number 1, what I was doing was helping them to see specifically how to use custom audiences, because at that time, like most people weren't using custom audiences. And I was like, this is the low-hanging fruit. If I can just help you use custom audiences, you're going to get so many better results. And then the second one is just me being ridiculous. It was like a taco GIF, letting them know that I'm excited that they're here in the process. Checkpoint number 3 was an authority building ad for anyone who's been in version 2 and on. You guys know the Connect Sequence Authority Builder. So it's me live streaming from Entrepreneur Magazine's head office there on their Facebook page. And then checkpoint number 4, I called it here a self-reminder, but what it is actually a testimonial. So it was me writing, hey, all the things that I've accomplished for clients and with people in the 1.0 version. It was just putting these things instead of in email format, in ad format in front of them. And I can't remember the specific amount. You guys probably be able to quote it better because you just read it. It was like $112 that I spent on this process from start to finish, getting people into it, and like $1 a day for each of these. And that was the way that I launched the second version of this. Okay. You're like, Bon, well, how did people buy? Tila, this one's for you. So at the end of the launch, there was literally a one-page website. It was a click funnel. It's like the most basic funnel. I think it was like white and it had a logo of strategy. And it's like, if you're here, you're interested, click here to find out if you're a fit. And then you click here. And this ManyChat automation, this is when I used it to start conversations. This ManyChat automation fired. In the audio, it's like, hey, I'm so pumped that you're here. I want to understand, what you're looking to get out of it. And so Tila, one of our legendary strategists, this is how we started the conversation. And she ended up joining us in 2.0. And has become one of our really high earning strategists. And I'm so proud of you in this process. So huge shout out to Tila here from 2.0 in the comments. Everyone give her a little round of applause. But this is what I did with 150 people in that launch. 150 people went through that process where it was just a DM automation. They clicked a button that said, hey, I want to know more, and it went direct to my inbox. So again, I don't have a sales page at this point. What I did have though was a Google Doc. And as I was having conversations with people, right, when they were saying those things, so if we go back to what Tila said, it's the non-salesy approach. Like, I can just be me and that's enough, right? And still make money. And so I would take those words and I was putting it in the Google Doc. And at the end, I think there was 16 people maybe that I gave the Google Doc to, because what I was doing during that time period is disqualifying a lot of humans that weren't right for ads, right? Like it's important for me to make sure that ads are right for you at the right stage of your business. And if I look back at Bond at this stage, she probably wasn't ready for ads. She didn't have a sales page. She didn't have an automated email sequence. She still was working on her IP, right? And that's okay, because it was the thing that fueled the assets to come, right? Like, I'm giving myself grace. It's allowed to be awkward. It's messy as we go, but it was the thing. All of those conversations opened up an understanding of my market that still serves me to this day. And it's not like I just did it that one time and had those 150 conversations and bounced. Like, this is something that I continuously do throughout my journey. I did lose my voice having all of those conversations. And I sound like I've lost my voice today, but you know how children are buggy. And so mine has given me the tail end of a cold. But that is essentially how we got through 2.0 in terms of a sales process. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was really low key. And all of those things ultimately led me to this lesson: is pay attention to the words that your ideal humans are saying, because they're going to tell you exactly what they're struggling with. And if you're willing to ask questions, add value, and stay curious. So many people right now in this industry are trying to automate this part of the process. There is literal gold in mining for their words, in looking back on the Zooms that you've had, even with your one-on-one clients, or your first group program where it was really raw and just, not that highly polished thing. Just listen, pay attention to what your humans are trying to tell you. Like, that is the thing. That's my biggest lesson from that launch. It will forever stay with me. I had so much fun, and I connected with so many of you. So I think there's at least 2 of you I saw in the comments from the 2.0 version of it. What did the program look like? It looked a little bit better, right? Like, I had the curriculum designer, go through it and make some improvements. So now look, on the left-hand side, we have a full program. Yay. Like I'm not just starting delivering courses and then changing at the end and being like, oh my God, like how am I going to help all these people? So I had a curriculum, I had a way of doing things. This is version 2.0. It's still me like making graphics in Canva. It's still me shooting from my iPhone, sitting on my couch. Like it's still a very basic version of it. And this time we had a Facebook group. So instead of Slack, what we did is linking each of the lessons in the Facebook group so that we had a place for more feedback. As well, at this part of the journey, I was live streaming every single week. I can't remember if it was weekly or bi-weekly, but it was me going live, explaining the concepts, hearing more about what people were struggling with, where they're trying to implement. And these live streams from a course creator perspective got fully off track. We just had so much fun on them and we talked about everything under the sun. So it got away from the curriculum. But what it did do was allow me to have feedback, right? Like give me the feedback loops because your content at this phase, this is what 2.0 phase, it still might not be clear enough. And comma, we'll throw a little Hormozi in there, and comma, that's okay, right? Because we need the feedback. It is a process that can get better and be refined over time. And looking back on my journey, the more that I didn't give myself permission to be a work in progress, the more I didn't show up. That actually is a fact. I'm fascinated that that just came out of my mouth, but I think I just had a light bulb moment there. Because if I thought I needed to be too perfect and polished, I wasn't coming to the process. I wasn't hanging out with you guys. I wasn't adding the value. Maybe we'll get to that, or maybe that'll be a fireside chat story over drinks one time. So that is 2.0, and then we go on to 3.0. So the only difference between 2.0 and 3.0 is that I took another spin through the content, and instead of it being one course that they went through from start to finish, like with all these modules, I started to split out each of the phases because I was realizing, ooh, this 3-phase system is kind of what's happening here, right? Like that is the IP. That is like how I'm getting people the results that we're looking for. So that was the biggest change from a course perspective. We still had the Facebook group. We still had live streams. The 3.0 version, I guess we'll go with the lesson on that one is just refine, right? Like I could have stopped at 2.0, but those live streams were giving me insight to where things weren't clear. And therefore, I believe as a course creator, it's my responsibility to try and make the customer journey, like the educational journey, the pathway that people are going through, as effective as possible. Now, I know there's a lot of courses out there. I'm not going to name it, but if you guys by this description know what it is, that's cool. There is one of the most well-known courses in our industry, and week 1, I believe, has 11 hours of content. 11 hours in week 1? Like that's 25% of your entire 40-hour work week. And that is if you don't even do the exercises that come with it. So I look at that and I'm like, that's just lazy on behalf of the course creator because you're not simplifying the concepts. You're not getting clear around what you're actually teaching. Like nobody needs 11 hours of content in week 1. Nobody probably even needs an 11-hour content course. Again, personal opinion. I'll get off the soapbox on that one. So that was my lesson. In terms of selling it though, the only difference between version 2 and version 3 was I was in a mastermind at the time, and Denise Duffield Thomas, if you guys know her, she's the author of Get Rich Lucky Bitch, which, fun fact, I reread that book every year because it's hilarious and super effective. But she, in her mastermind, was talking about evergreen programs. And I literally had sold and I still had clients during this time up until 3.0. I think I finally offloaded some of my client work. So she was like, evergreen, evergreen. And I'm like, I sell people's evergreen all the time. Why am I not running my own thing evergreen at this point? The first two were just launch based, right? So this is the moment that I then wrote a blog post that summarized essentially what now this program was and had a single opt-in. And when you went into the wait list, it would like auto launch it with maybe like 5 to 7 emails. I don't know why seven's like a number that I use often, like 7 emails. I think it was like, no, maybe it was only 5. Excuse me, because I think the automation worked like, hey, thanks for opting in. We're currently waitlisted. On Tuesday morning, it would be like, hey, the doors are opening. And on Wednesday, the automation would be like, doors are open. And so from Wednesday to Friday, I'd have sales come in every week. Don't ask me why. It was just like one of those things that I just listened to somebody about something, which in your head you're like, Mom, that's very pro marketer of you, right? Like fake scarcity and this and that. It's like, guys, I know. Like you don't have to tell me. I was a bro marketer to my core. Hence why I wrote that article, because I could, because I understood that side of the equation. So this is how I sold 3.0. And I just gave myself permission to do it, right? Like it is what it is. But the lesson here is start simple with automations because done is better than perfect. Who here, let me stop the share for a second. Who here with us right now knows that you have a course and that you should be offering it to people on a consistent basis for sale, but you're not doing it? I mean, hi, I fall into that category too, right? It's so easy to think that like it needs to be this complex sales funnel and there are 52,000 steps. And if that's not perfect over there, this over there. My own lesson from the last little while is I've been trying to set up this live launch. And you guys know my baby's going to be 8 months next week. And so I'm like coordinating schedules with 7 different grown adults, trying to get grandparents help and cousins help to watch the baby and stuff. And I'm like, I really want to launch this like at some point. And I really just want to work like closely with my humans again because I miss you guys. I really do. Um, and so I asked a few people's schedules and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I don't know. Maybe it's not going to happen until March. Oh, maybe it's not, or not March. Maybe it won't happen until April. Oh, maybe it won't happen until May. And I was like, you know what, Bond? Just set a date. Like set a date, sit down. Done is better than perfect. And on what was it? Wednesday this week, I went to a coffee shop. I came home from the coffee shop. I told my fiance and I was like, listen, I am launching this thing. Cart's going to open on like the 25th. I'm going to just add a massive amount of value in any way possible to my humans in the meantime. And that's that, right? Like done is better than perfect. Instead of thinking about it, just act on it. And that's my biggest learning from phase 3. Really credit to Denise Duffield Thomas for just reminding us to get out of our own way. And she said it so beautifully and eloquently. It's like, I think she makes something ridiculous. She talks about this publicly, like $30,000 a month just from an evergreen audio program that sits on like it's the simplest thing, and she hasn't updated it in years. And she's like, let your IP work for you, right? Let it. So that was the lesson from 3.0. Where are you guys in this process so far? Who's kind of in the 1.0 phase where you're really raw figuring it out? Who's in the 2.0 phase where you've run it once and now you're refining? 2.0 for me was refining the marketing, right? Like I was getting the words that my people were saying so that, at this point, I realized for a 3.0, I had created a sales page. So that was the one new asset that I made for 3.0. So sales page in 3.0. So, or are you in sales, or are you in 3.0 kind of world where you have a sales page? You might have very simple automations, very simple like setup, whether it's still live launching or evergreen. Are you in the 3.0 version? Drop that live for us just so that I can get a feel for where you guys are at this process. Carmen is in 2.0 world. We've got 2.5-ish. Yep, I like an ish, a good ish. We've got a 1.0 phase. Ooh, I think I'm jumping backwards. I'm curious to hear about that. So a lot of 2.0. Awesome. If you are literally between 1 and 3, like you're there, right? Just keep moving forward. All of this is giving you evidence that you can turn into these online assets that work for you, right? Like I'm always talking about these assets, these marketing assets that go out there and they act like little employees for us. They are doing the work. They are selling every day. They are educating people on making the decision that is right for them. You know what I mean? Like this is our work in the world. This is our transformation that we're creating. This is, you know, when I sit down and somebody goes out there and puts more humans into their program, service, mastermind through ads, it's changing not only the trajectory of their life, right? Let's say that them is you, but it's also changing the trajectory, so hard to say, of the people's lives that it's helping, right? Like I think we might have a lactation consultant with us live right now. And if that is you, like think about it, you are helping women nurture and connect to their babies. And then those babies are going to grow up and have more secure attachments. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many ways that we can impact it. So I'm cheering everyone on at every stage because it's just such a beautiful process. Like what? We get to do this for a living on the internet? What? Think about that. It was my little tangent. It was my grandma's 99th birthday, or my great grandma's 99th birthday, my daughter's great great grandma's 99th birthday. Like, they didn't have these options, right? Like, I remember when Lev came into my dorm room in 2005, and he's like, there's this platform called Facebook where you can tag people when you meet them at a party in case you didn't catch their name. And I was like, that's stupid. Who, like, how would both of them be on the platform to like tag each other? And who's tagging them? Like, who's taking the photo? I'm gonna know both people. But like, why wouldn't you just ask that person to introduce you to the other person? You know, when you had like a university address to get on, email address to get on the platform. Like, Edna did not have that opportunity. What? We get to do this. Mind blowing. All right. So, excuse me, jumping back into it. At this point, I actually realized that for additional context, I actually realized that the program that I was building, right, in version 3.0 and what it ultimately would become were different. Okay, so this is like a massive pivot moment. And I couldn't have got to this phase until I realized that. And so at 3.0, what I did is I actually shut down the program. So if you were in version 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, that program was called Strategy, right? You guys had lifetime access to that program. Then I introduced, let's go back to screen share. Then I introduced what became known as the strategy system. And you're like, Bon, that's the exact same thing. Friend, I know. I failed so hard here calling it anything similar to what it was. And it's because of that damn R on the end. It's that registered symbol, which means I have a legal trademark on this freaking name. I was like, God damn it. I registered a name program that like is completely like I'm taking you down a completely different pathway. So we started from scratch at this point. But I had learned everything that I had learned from the first 3 iterations, right? And I had always sold X amount of Facebook access. I think it was like sometimes 6-week access or 90-day access. I think the most I got to be was 12 weeks. And I was just that person that never removed anyone from my Facebook group. So during that time, people who went through the program like 2 years prior would message me 2 years afterwards, and they're still in the Facebook group. So at this point, I was like, okay, we're gonna burn all of that down, and the strategy system is born. And this is where I go like MIA from social media, because in my head I was like, okay, this has got to be next level, right? It also happened to coincide with the exact time that I released an article, which is one of those assets that I couldn't have created without having gone through the process to this point. We actually documented this entire journey back at the start of December. So anyone who's interested in this but didn't catch it, we've got lots of replays that talk through all of the pieces. But this single ad went viral in our industry on December 17th, 2018, bringing, I might be right in the way of my head, bringing more page views to the website than literally this last like 7 months combined on the site. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, everything that I had been building towards was to build an asset like this that can actually do the work for me. This is when Facebook ads are actually really scalable and come into play, right? This is when I can get it in front of people's eyeballs over and over again and actually have them join the program, because I know what to say now. I know where I'm taking them now. I know what this is and isn't, right? It's equally important to learn what things aren't along the way. And so that that ended up being an asset that, my friend Luria here says it's the best sales job I've ever seen from anyone. And that was possible because I had 150 conversations, because my first version of the course started off like a course and then ended up being group coaching and then ended up being one-on-one coaching so that I could refine that methodology, because I handed it over to an instructional designer, because they reviewed the curriculum. That is how it came about. And there's a lot of talk in this industry about how easy this process is. Oh, just, take TikTok right now. Oh my God, it's so easy. Digital marketing, so easy. Do you know how many skills we have to build to be able to do that? It takes time, right? It takes time. So this is now what the strategy system looks like. It's like a fully produced with like movie clips, with full animations. This thing in the bottom left is it's like a Harry Potter, because essentially one of our elements of the strategy system is like if this then that conditional logic, which has like it got really simplified over the years. It used to be in the old program. So if you actually have access to the 3.0 program, you have the dynamic sequence like elements that new people going through the process, they don't have as much of the like if this then that type of scenario. And so one of the things when I do open up a live cohort is we are going to go down that rabbit hole a little bit deeper. But there's a long way to say this bottom screen is a Harry Potter map that is literally animated, and the 4 houses are different ways that you could move through the strategy system based on the actions that your ideal clients are taking in the newsfeed. So it's like all of those really cringy videos, Canva-esque videos, led to this moment where it's like studio produced, fully scripted, teleprompted. So every single word that is said out of my mouth in this like version of it is very intentional. That is where it brought us. Okay. We can't start here though. right? Like Bond of 2017, she thought that this was the version that we were producing. It's like, no, 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 honey, you weren't even producing that same like course at the end of the day. It needed to go like here, there, everywhere, and then on a drive and park over here. I don't even know what analogy I'm using, but like it needed to have some time to get to this place. So this is what it looks like to this day. The beauty of a program like this and where I want you guys to get to in your own journey is that because I sat down and constantly had those feedback loops, I essentially knew that in module 1, there was going to be 3 questions that were ever asked, right? Like all the content was so refined and so dialed in that I knew that there was going to be 3 questions that were asked because those were the only 3 questions that were ever asked in the Facebook group. It was as simple as that, right? So then this really polished, beautiful version of it answered those questions. So now my asset is even more automated, right? Like it is allowing us to leverage all of the questions, all of the answers that we did before, and it's putting people through the sequence of events that they need to do now. So it all like leads to this part where it is more polished, where it is easier for people to go through. The marketing perspective is now I have an asset that works, right? Like it takes people from not knowing about me to sometimes buying the program in an hour's time period. Like not everyone, granted, right? Like we're not delusional here. We're not like, oh my God, everyone can just have these assets if you too want to be a digital marketer selling master resale rights courses. Not selling easy money here. I'm selling the process of creating an asset that can, in best case scenario instance, turn somebody into a customer immediately, or it can take time, right? But we're building towards these assets. And my vantage point for ads is getting to a place where your ads are automated. They're running in the background in tandem with these assets, right? And guys, what is it? Cobbler's son? Cobbler's son has no shoes. You're like, Bond, how come you don't have your ads on all the time? Friends, you're right. Like sometimes I don't. And it's because, so I alluded to this a little bit earlier, the sometimes I'm really damn hard on myself. If I'm gonna be perfectly transparent. And I still look at this course. Can I like go back and share this screen because I'm so freaking proud of it? Like, look at how beautiful this is, right? Like, look at how polished this is. The workbooks of it are insane, but yet the stupid gray matter up here still tells me from time to time that it's a piece of shit. So it's my own ad motions, which I coach people through. Yes, it is so much easier for me as an ad strategist to go out there and create automated ads for my clients. It is so much easier for me to go into somebody else's business and be like, here, I see it. I see this pathway for you, right? The reason that this took me, I guarantee you, the reason that this took me 7 years is because of that. It's only because I held myself back along the process. And if you guys have been at this for a while, like, do you feel me? Do you understand the process, or not the process, the emotions behind it? Again, I think that was the most important part of all of this, is to share that it takes time. It doesn't have to be perfect out of the gate. And our damn brains, even at the end of it, are still going to tell us that there's issues, or, oh my gosh, it could have been better, or it's always evolving, or Bond, you're stupid for shutting that down and calling it the same thing instead of like completely pivoting, because the subject matter, like from start to finish, like not a single video in the new program came from the other program. It's an entirely new thing. And yet I'm like, I did that to myself, right? So any questions that you guys had about this this long process? I hope that you see yourself somewhere along this, I hope that you know that it's absolutely okay where you are, and that the fully automated dream, like it takes me less than 20 hours a year, friends, to fulfill on the program, right? So I'm off having a baby. I'm off literally tearing a duplex down to the studs, doing other things. And this program is still there in the background, right? But 7 years ago, I'm so proud of Bond for being in the trenches, talking to every single human that would ever listen to her about ads, asking questions, jumping on impromptu Zooms. If anyone here has is in the comments and I have jumped on a Voxer, a Zoom, sent you a Loom, like, can you guys just say which one it was? Because like this is the work that gets us to a place where we're creating the assets where our ads can finally scale it. And you can also not take 7 years to do it like Bond. There are faster ways to go about it. Okay, so let's go back and see if there's any questions. I see a few of them. I love that you guys are so excited in the chat. JT, good to see you. Janae, hello. I'm so pumped that you're here. Okay, question. I love that Stephanie's moving to Evergreen with our primary course. Yeah, Evergreen was such I loved that shift because it allowed me to have it available and open every day. I have a mature product that I think needs to go back to live launches versus Evergreen. Hey, guess who's doing that right now? Right? I'm like, I think there needs to be a little bit of lifeblood put into a new entry point. And so I thought back, I was looking back on my Vimeos, reminiscing on this process, and I was like, oh, how'd that bro marketing article come to be? I came and hung out with you guys. I shared elements. You guys asked questions. And then I used that to create a new, fresh entry point, right? Like the bro marketing one is great. It still works. It's been converting people since 2018. But as I was going through our multi-page pre-sale site, our sphere of influence training that we did back in December, I was like, oh, I'm craving this process again, right? So going back to live launching and refreshing energy into it. So I'm totally there with you. Where is it? I think, yeah, we just got that one. In research, just decided to take my expertise on autopilot. So just starting 1.0 phase and trying to figure out between 3 possible topics. I love it. So you are in the thick of it. Found you through that article, the best. Thank you, Kim. All right, so we have our first question. Can you do this for a life coaching program? Second question, does the price of the program matter? Yes, I mean, I'm like trying to think if there's any like clarifying questions. What part? I mean, I think all of these parts can apply to all of our businesses, right? Like if you're life coaching people in a one-to-one capacity, I bet you have tools and processes and ways to take them through. And like person 1 could be different from person 2, it could be different from person 3, and that's okay, right? Like what we're trying to do through this process is really find out what our intellectual property is, like what our process is, refine it, give it time, like let it brew, sit in the stew of like, what the heck do we actually do for a living? But also help people along the way and earn money as a result, right? Like go and put people into a group coaching container where they might be learning from others along the way, then refining the curriculum. So you're like, ooh, this is the through line of all of those people. Okay, maybe I can turn that into a course. Maybe I could write a sales page specifically to that person. I think you can do this for anything, whether you're a dietitian helping people with their hormones, or you are helping people monitor their glucose, whether you are a business consultant and you have a very specific way of doing it, whether you're a life coach or a relationship coach, like this process can apply to all of us. Kim says, time frame again, beta to current version and price edits from beta to current version. All right, rapid fire. 2017, we did sold in April, $2,000 for the first version, beta, right? Had 10 people go through it. So I think that was a $20,000 launch. In September, after the curriculum designer went through it, I believe that price point was $12.97. I believe that's what it was. 2.0, $12.97. We had about the same amount of revenue, so a few more people through it and just less cost. Then the third version, no changes, was $12.97. At this point, we introduce a payment plan. And we tried 3 of them, and we ultimately ended up on 4 payments of $397. I believe that's 3.0. So then burn it to the ground, redo it from scratch, open up the strategy system, trademarked. And that one was $24.97. Included, oh, I forgot to talk about the coaching, included more coaching components on that. So I actually had a team of coaches, like you'd submit homework at each checkpoint and the coach would review the homework. So there was a little bit more interactivity, but also feedback on your work and like your exact sales funnel. And then the current version, completely DIY, I took it down to $897. Make it more accessible. In doing so, lowest refund rate I've ever had. It's 0% right now, has been for a year and a half. And it takes me 20 hours a year to manage the customer service of it. That I think I hit all the things along the way. Awesome. So Stephanie, can you just clarify, the question is moving from evergreen to cohort? And then are ads for non-course sales? Of course, they can totally be for non-course sales. Even if your offer isn't an online course, you would need to productize your offer in some way, or else why are we running ads when the fastest path to cash is usually like one-to-one tapping into your network? Your time would be spent better off, and you would actually like improve your thought leadership and your authority, let's say, I think, if you had a service that was really customized. So if ads, in my opinion, are for like productized things, which means services that are the same to deliver for each person, right? Like clockwork, e-com products, stuff like that. And so a course, you can treat it like a product, even though it's an online course. A launch or like a mastermind, you can get it to the place where it's like you treat it like a product because you launch the same way every time. You can use ads, obviously, to sell things one-off, but again, my principles are to automate the ads. Like just set up the ads. I've had ads for a client running since May. And like, I don't mess with them. They literally just run it in the background for super low budgets and bringing them leads every single day. And I'm just like, cool. I set those up in May and they're still working. So that is the way that I like to look at things. I don't like to spend all of my time in Ads Manager. Like I like to build things that work for me for years to come. You answered my DMs and I haven't bought from you yet directly. Girl, that's okay. I think Kiki as a woman there. If not, I apologize there. And like it's okay, right? It can take time. You never have to buy from me. If you got value today and you go implement it, like I'm still gonna be stoked for you. I do have availability, like for people to work with me in different capacities if they want the support, right? I think that's a great way to look at it and a great mindset to have. We have a bunch of smaller courses that will stay on Evergreen and use strategy to feed them, but our primary program will go back to cohorts and live launching. Love that idea. In full transparency, I'm thinking through the same thing myself, right? Like I've spent 7 years on this IP. And so now I'm like, ooh, like what complementary topics? Add motions? I could talk a lot about ad motions because I coach people that I work with. I literally, as an ads strategist that works with clients and friends, I don't actually offer that as a service to anyone else but my friends. Um, excuse me. I laugh because I'm literally just an ads motions coach. Like I just quickly press buttons, but really what I do there is just constantly manage their ad motions. That's the only thing that I do in that role, in my opinion. Everything else I could do in my sleep. Um, so I have lots of thoughts about ad motions. Who wants to see an ad motions audio course where it kind of talks you through or coaches you through all the different feelings that you have at each stage of maybe launching ads or being, seeing the results from your funnel when they're not showing you the things that it's wanting to show you. I'm so glad that you really needed to hear this today, Nellie. Can be applied also to Google Ads, which are different eventually. Absolutely. Like this entire process, I think, is platform agnostic. It is platform agnostic, product agnostic. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you use Thinkific or Notion or Zoom or Slack or Facebook groups to deliver your offer, or you speak on stages or use Facebook ads or use Google or organic, like everything there is agnostic. It's more just about showing up to the process that gets us an asset that is fully automated by the end of it, but that like has heart and soul because we understand our humans, because we know the different steps of the process that they're going through. Stephanie says, strategy is so smart. I've taken other ads courses, and this was the first approach that made so much sense in terms of how people actually think. I love and appreciate you for saying that. I love every single human that has went through this because, like I say, I didn't build strategy. You guys built strategy. Kim says, thank you so much for your transparency. My pleasure. I hope you guys got some value from this. Again, my intention was just to really attack head on it's easy, it takes 6 seconds. Oh, you don't have to have this. Like, man, it's work, right? But we're doing the work up front to create the thing that can constantly put money in our bank account year after year. We're creating the structure for future freedom. And that takes time, and that's okay. Patricia says, I'm sorry if I asked a question that you already answered. Is your program totally self-paced without coaching or Q&A calls? And do you have any advice for preparing a 4 to 12-week course for Evergreen? So first one, the $897 course is totally self-paced. At the end of the month on, what is it, the 25th, I'm going to be opening up a live container with me for the first time actually since 2017. It's going to be more similar to the 2017 version, where there was just like extra FaceTime. That is going to be on the 25th. So again, there's no pitch. If anyone's interested in that, it is coming down the pipeline. Hit me up in the DMs if you have questions. And do you have any advice for prepping a 4 to 12-week course for Evergreen? Yes. My biggest advice for the going from live launching to Evergreen is thinking through, you're going to have different people at different times coming through that course, right? Man, how do I go from this? Does this make sense? Am I going forward when I do this? I always think it's backwards when I do that. I think so. So hopefully you guys are going to be like, Bond, it's backwards always. If you have a person here and it's 4 weeks, it's backwards, isn't it? I just saw some backwards. Okay, so let's start over here. If you have somebody starting here and they're going through 4 weeks, you're going to have another person maybe starting here, which is their month one or their week one going through 4 weeks, right? So they're going to be over here an extra week. And then you're going to have somebody and I say somebody, but it could be 12 people starting that day. And then you're going to have somebody here starting in their like 3 days before the end, and they're going to be going 4 weeks. And then, if you're not selling with consistency, it could be a gap, and then somebody else can start 4 weeks, and so on and so forth. So the biggest thing that we thought through for that stage, going from live launch cohorts to the evergreen, is just making sure that when they ask a question, that question goes to a very specific area. Actually, I think I have a visual to demonstrate that, and it was under, where was it? It was under our 2.0. No, I think this is our 3.0. So what we did is this was a lesson inside of, oh no, this actually goes in 3.0. So I made a mistake there. So close, earn more from the Facebook ATM, earn more from the Facebook ATM. This is somewhere in that, there's that lesson. And when you click at the bottom of this lesson in whatever your course software is, it takes you specifically to this post in the Facebook group or Slack or what's the new one that people are using? Discord, or school, or like whatever the thing is. And so as you can see, all of these 110 comments pertain specifically to whatever that the indicators of success I am going to bet it's either in Nerd Out on Numbers or measuring results. And so that was how we kept it on track. Like people further would be, then they have different posts that would be under whatever section they were in. That's my biggest tip that I have going from live launching to being like able to evergreen it and consistently have people go through the process. Yeah, the primary program is course plus coaching. The main objective is that they don't believe in themselves. So core is important to helping them feel like they're going to be successful. Awesome. And then the additional evergreen stuff. Sounds so good. And Patricia says, Add Motions is a brilliant idea for audio course. Add Motions audio. What about YouTube advertising? Same structure. Again, having an awful time being disabled on Facebook. Friends, my Instagram account got shut down last week. Like I totally get how Facebook's such a dick sometimes. And so this is platform agnostic, it's YouTube agnostic, and it's also me saying to you, you don't have to do it this way. This is just my way. This is just the process I went through. I messed up along the way, right? Like the people in 1.0 to 3.0, they don't have access to the new program, right? I'm going to be opening up a live cohort. So it's like, I now need to think through silly things like, hey, these people over here who probably learned that thing over there might want to join over here. So like what kind of prorated pricing do I need to have over here? But then I've also sold it as DIY, and now I'm selling it as live. And so live has extra components. So, but like, what if they own DIY and they want to get into live? But what if they got the new strategy system before you know what I mean? Like I added a ton of complexity. Hormozy, comma, and wait, is it and comma, that's okay? I can't remember. Maybe I got it backwards. Comma, and that's okay. I think it's and comma, that's okay, right? Like we're allowed to shift, we're allowed to evolve, we're allowed to mess up, we're allowed to make mistakes on this process. And you're going to, right? Like if going back to what I learned from my first version, if the thing that I caused myself to stress about the most is thinking that I had to be like the people that were polished instead of waiting until I become the person who can teach at the level of polish. And for those of you who have been like through this broadcast, I've messed up, right? Like I don't even know where to push this button over there. Like, sure, those videos are polished because I had a beautiful videographer and I was full face makeup, and it doesn't stop me from showing up to the process along the way. So if there are any final questions, let me know. Could you offer the self-paced as is and live coaching as a membership option? Great idea. Responding out loud. I don't know if I'd be able to commit to that capacity with my little nugget. I've thought about it, and I also realized that I have energy cycles that I like to show up for. And it's like when the energy is there, lean into it. And when it's not, retreat from it so that I can go refresh, so that I can bring you guys the best of me at all times instead of like forcing myself through that. So for me, membership feels that way. For you, it might be like, oh my God, I want to get recurring revenue and that's going to make me feel so good and it's going to inspire me. Then that's amazing. Again, this is my story. I'm so happy that you guys came to hear about it. I want you to just reflect at what little nuggets you could take from today's session to help you take one step like closer to creating those automated assets, or alternatively give yourself to permission to unautomate an asset, right? Like I guess we just came full circle, right? We went from beta launch to 100% automated sales process to, oh shoot, Bond's tacking on a little beta launch and then excuse me, gonna go back to the origins of it. So I guess the lesson is really do whatever the hell you want online, as long as you're adding value to people's lives and enjoying the fact that we get to do this as a career. It's going to take time as long as we are showing up to the process of mastery. I think that's okay. All right, guys, I love and appreciate every single one of you for being here. In the comments, I would love to hear your takeaways, or alternatively, I'm going to send out the replay and I would love to hear any insight that you got or you have from this. So once you see that email pop into your inbox, feel free to let me know. I would love to hear your specific story or hit me up in the DMs. It's always me responding instead of ManyChat. So thank you guys for your time today. I so appreciate it.